Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sam. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you're coming back, thank you for coming back and watching this video. I'm excited because this one is a very highly requested from Instagram topic. So it is going to be all about tree fern fiber and how to grow in it, what it is, the benefits, the pros, the cons. We're going to go really deep dive into it because I don't feel like there's a whole lot of information out there about it now as another growing medium, but I've been loving it lately, and so I'm excited to show you how I use it. So I have a bag of it here. I just got this bag off Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below if you want to go grab some for yourself. There's different types you can find on Amazon, but I would just suggest to always make sure it says the New Zealand tree fern fiber. And as you may have guessed from the name, it is literally just a fibrous material that is taken from tree ferns, which is super interesting. It has really good water retention. I'm gonna try and get a really close-up shot. Let's see if we can get it to focus. It's a pretty dark material, but you can see it's like little tiny twigs. It's pretty soft, kind of resembles sphagnum moss a little bit. It's just a little more twiggy, I guess. But it retains a lot of moisture, but then it also allows for a lot of airflow to roots, which is super, super helpful. This is basically what a lot of the forest or like rainforest floor is made of, and the plants grow so well in it there. So I was like, if it can do well for those plants, it's going to do well for mine. I have a couple plants in it so far, but I am planning to use it for more. You can mix this with other soil, but you also don't have to. I've used it just straight for my plants so far, and they've done so well. There has been a lot of unsustainable harvesting over the last however many years, and so now there's a lot more regulation, so it is a lot easier to find sustainably sourced tree fern fiber. Just do your research and make sure that you're getting it from a place that does it the right way. One plant that I recently put in this is this variegated Alocasia frydek, which was a pretty expensive plant, so I was a little nervous to use this medium because I haven't used it a whole lot yet, but it is doing absolutely amazing. You can see all of the roots that are growing through there. They're doing so well. You can see some of the moisture on the pot. I also love using clear pots for this reason. But I have been so impressed with how fast the roots have grown in this. It just absolutely loves it. The capillary action of tree fern fiber is great. So if you were to bottom water, it would really evenly distribute all of the water throughout really quickly. So you don't have to worry about just like a soggy bottom. Like, it's going to make sure that all the water saturates every part of the tree fern fiber. It just pulls it really well. And so I've just loved using it. I actually water from the top. You can use this in self-watering planters. It would actually work great that way. I prefer to just have it in a pot like this, and I water it like I would any other normal soil, just from the top. I've been wanting to repot this Philodendron Columbia into the tree fern fiber, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and just show you my process for repotting a plant into this medium. I chose a pot that's a little bit bigger than the original pot that it was in, just to give it a little bit more space. There's a lot of good roots, and these roots are pretty aggressive, so we're just going to use that size of pot. I'm just gently removing the soil. You don't want to mess with the roots too much. The nice thing about this tree fern fiber is you don't have to remove every tiny last bit of soil like you would with Leica, which is super helpful because a lot of times it's hard to remove all the soil without really, really damaging the roots. So we're just going to get in here, remove as much as we can. And honestly, this has a lot of tiny roots going all throughout, so we're just going to pretty much leave it like that. I think that's going to be good enough. So we're going to leave it like that. Then when it comes to the tree fern fiber, we're going to add just a little bit. Let me try to get you a better view of what this actually looks like. It's really fine. It's soft. It doesn't really hold together. It's actually damp right out of the bag. So it's a little bit damp, and we're going to fill in about halfway. And then I'm going to set my plant in here like this. Just about like that. So we're have some roots touching the new tree fern fiber. And then I'm just gonna fill in around the plant and a little bit up towards the side. These are, I believe these are kind of crawlers, this type of philodendron, or at least it looks to be. So I wanna make sure that I'm giving it enough surface area to kind of grow in to the tree fern fiber. The roots that kind of will be growing out of here, I want those to be touching the medium so that it can grow into there. And that looks pretty dang good. All right, so like I said, there's a couple ways you can water. I like to just water from the top, just like this, until it's fully saturated. And then once I see water coming out of the bottom, I'll stop. The other thing you can do is you can add a drip tray like this, and then bottom water by just filling the drip tray about halfway full and letting the plant soak it up that way as well. So those are both great options and both will work really well for this plant. Just keep in mind that if you are going to bottom water, to do it efficiently or like effectively, you need to make sure that the top of the soil is getting damp, because there are going to be roots up here as well. And if you don't water it thoroughly and you take it out of the reservoir of water too soon, then the water will not come all the way up to these roots and they will die of dry rot. So make sure that you are letting the topsoil get damp. That's why I never say that bottom watering should be affixed to your fungus gnat issue, because if you're doing it right, the top layer is still going to get wet. Speaking of fungus gnats, if those have been an issue for you, I highly recommend using these BTI drops. It's just 1 drop in a gallon of water and you use it on everything that you use the water on. So perlite, moss, soil, water props, anything that you would be watering, you have this in your watering can, and it is a bacteria that will excrete a toxin that will kill fungus gnat larvae and black fly larvae and mosquito larvae. So it's commonly used for ponds, livestock tanks, bird baths. It won't hurt birds, fish, or animals or humans. So it's safe to use. 1 drop per gallon of water is all you need, literally. It's shipped in a tub that looks like powder, but this little thing is what you'll get. So don't be confused by that. I'll have the link down below for this as well. This has been a lifesaver for me. It stops the life cycle of the gnats, so it cuts down on your population dramatically. One thing to keep in mind is that when it is time to water this, it will dry out and it will look kind of like lighter in color. So it's easy just to look at it to know when to water. So you don't, I mean, if you want to keep water in this reservoir, you can. But I will usually just wait until it's a lighter brown color and then give it a good water. The other thing is, this does not break down nearly as fast as some other substrates like normal potting soil or peat moss or sphagnum moss. This takes a lot longer to break down, which is actually great because it's going to be a lot longer life for your plant, and you can also reuse it as long as it didn't have any issues with your plant like bugs, rotting, or anything like that. You can kind of keep reusing this over and over again and it will keep your plants happy. Here you can see the difference between this one that has been starting to dry out a little bit. You can see kind of the lighter brown pieces versus this one that I just watered. It's all dark brown. So that's kind of how you know when it's time to water, although I would let this entire top get a lot lighter brown than even that. But it's definitely a lot darker when it's saturated. If you are looking for a certain type of tree fern fiber, it's good to get the New Zealand tree fern fiber because of the abundance of the natural tree fern that they use to make it. So it's not protected. So they can just take it and it's still sustainable because it grows so fast there. If you wanted to mix this with something to make it go a little bit further, I would suggest perlite. I think it would be great with that. Maybe even orchid bark. You could mix it with some normal soil, but like I said, I like to use it just on its own or just with some chunky perlite. I think both of those would be amazing together. It is a little bit more on the pricey side, I would say. It's not as inexpensive as, say, perlite, but I think it's right up there with pond. So if you're familiar with pond, I think that the tree fern fiber is a great alternative, although it is not the exact same. Obviously, pond is rocks and tree fern fiber is a plant fiber. Tree fern fiber would also be amazing to use as a substrate in terrariums. I think it would be great for that. You wouldn't have to add anything else. You can literally just put the tree fern fiber down and go right into planting your terrarium. Most houseplants will absolutely love it. Obviously, anything tropical is going to do great in there, like anthuriums, ferns, philodendron, monstera, they're all gonna love it. I think the only plant that I would suggest not using it with is probably cactus. I think that it would probably just retain too much moisture for them. Tree fern fiber has been around in the houseplant community for a while. I'm just kind of getting around to using it, and I've been super impressed so far. So if it's something that you would be interested in using, I highly recommend you try it out. I personally feel like it's a lot easier to use than Leica. I know it's not technically like semi-hydro, but it is still different than actual soil. Like, it's not actual soil. So it's an interesting growing medium. I know you can probably find it at some like fish stores, reptile stores, anywhere. It's kind of used for like a reptile medium as well in reptile tanks, but I've been loving it. I think my plants are loving it as well. I'm excited to see how they continue to grow. If you have any other questions about it, just leave them in the comments, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.